The National Electrical Code, or NEC, does not provide a definition for location wet, but it does classify various locations as wet or dry. NEC 110.11 addresses wet locations, defining them as locations where water is likely to drip, splash, or flow on or against electrical equipment during normal operation or maintenance. This includes locations exposed to rain, sleet, snow, drip, splash, condensation, or other sources of moisture. The degree of exposure to moisture may require enclosures intended for use in wet locations for protection of electrical equipment. Section 600.5 covers conduit bodies and fittings. Paragraph 4 states conduit bodies shall be of a type approved for the location in which they are used. Conduit bodies shall be accessible without removing any part of the building or structure or permanent closure. Paragraph C discusses drainage. If there is likely to be condensation within a conduit body, drainage shall be provided. An opening shall be provided at or near the bottom of the conduit body for the purpose of draining water. If openings are arranged for attachment of flexible conduits, the conduit body shall be equipped with a means to prevent condensation from collecting on the inside of the cover. Section 250.52 covers types of equipment grounding conductor connections for grounded systems. Subparagraph 3 addresses situations where the grounded conductor is run with the circuit conductors. The equipment grounding conductor shall be attached to the grounded circuit conductor and the service equipment enclosure, grounding electrode conductor, or other grounding means where the grounded conductor originates. The equipment grounding conductor shall be run with the circuit conductors throughout the entire length of the circuit. In addition, the equipment grounding conductor shall be attached to each equipment enclosure connected by the circuit. The equipment grounding conductor shall be sized in accordance with paragraph D3. There is an exception. For circuits connected to separately derived systems, the equipment grounding conductor shall be attached to the grounding electrode conductor, grounded circuit conductor, service equipment enclosure, or other grounding means at any convenient location. Considering conduits installed in slabs that are on grade but isolated from the earth by a 6 mm vapor barrier, it is important to note that nowhere in the NEC does it state that a vapor barrier is sufficient to classify a location as dry. Therefore, the presence of a vapor barrier does not automatically negate the potential for a location to be considered wet. The determination of whether a location is wet depends on the likelihood of water exposure as described in NEC 110.11. Several factors should be considered when evaluating the wetness of a location in relation to conduits in concrete slabs. Firstly, the effectiveness of the vapor barrier itself should be considered. A 6 mm vapor barrier can help reduce moisture migration from the ground into the concrete slab, but it is not a perfect seal. If the vapor barrier is damaged or improperly installed, moisture can still penetrate the slab. Secondly, condensation can occur within conduits, even if they are encased in concrete and have a vapor barrier underneath. Temperature differences between the inside of the conduit and the surrounding concrete can lead to condensation, particularly in humid environments. Thirdly, water can enter conduits through other means, such as leaks in the building structure or through the conduit ends if they are not properly sealed. This is particularly relevant for conduits that run from exterior locations into the slab. Given these factors, it is often prudent to treat conduits and concrete slabs on grade as being in a potentially wet location, even if a vapor barrier is present. This means using conduit and fittings that are approved for wet locations and taking measures to prevent water from entering the conduit system. It is important to use appropriate wiring methods for wet locations as specified by the NEC. This might include using conductors with insulation rated for wet locations such as THWN or XHHW. Ensuring proper drainage is critical for conduit systems in potentially wet locations, as highlighted in NEC 600.5 paragraph C. Providing drainage openings at or near the bottom of conduit bodies allows any accumulated water to escape, preventing it from damaging conductors or other electrical components. When selecting conduit and fittings, ensure they are suitable for wet locations. These components are typically made of corrosion-resistant materials and are designed to prevent water ingress. Regularly inspect conduit systems for signs of water intrusion, corrosion, or damage. Address any issues promptly to prevent further deterioration and potential electrical hazards. When making equipment grounding conductor connections, adhere to the requirements outlined in NEC 250.52. Ensure that the equipment grounding conductor is properly sized and connected to provide a low impedance path for fault current. Consider the specific environmental conditions and the likelihood of water exposure when determining whether a location should be classified as wet. Consult with a qualified electrical inspector or engineer if you have any doubts or questions. Understanding the definitions and requirements related to wet locations is crucial for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical installations in concrete slabs on grade. While a vapor barrier can provide some protection against moisture, it is not a guarantee that a location will be considered dry. Always err on the side of caution and follow the NEC guidelines for wet locations when there is a possibility of water exposure. Remember to consider all potential sources of moisture and implement appropriate measures to protect electrical equipment and prevent hazards. Proper planning, installation, and maintenance are essential for ensuring the long-term performance and safety of electrical systems in these environments. In summary, while a vapor barrier helps mitigate moisture, it doesn't automatically classify an area as dry under the NEC. The likelihood of dripping, splashing, or flowing water determines whether a location is considered wet. Use appropriate conduit and wiring methods for wet locations, ensure proper drainage, and regularly inspect the system.